Washington has no intention to grant protected extensions, explaining that it defeats the whole purpose. But it does seem like they're backing down on this tariff idea, which again, we need to end all these wars. We need to spend the money on rebuilding our factories and our industry. And then if you want to try and go on out with more global trade, you're in a position to do so. But you can tariff these imports of other products, and if they still can't be made here in the United States, then people just get hit with that tariff. It's like a hidden tax. Now, the United States has also extended the deadline for American investors to divest funds from newly sanctioned Russian companies. And these are United Company Rusal Pic, N Group PLC, and the Gaz Group. And the new deadline is now June 6th, instead of the original deadline of, well, May 7th, which is just a few days away. So they're pulling back on that as well. Now, the oil markets are really getting riled over the possibility of the end of the Iran deal, because the first thing the U.S. is expected to do after pulling out of the deal is redeclare an oil embargo on Iran. And that will cause shortages in production and drive prices up. And oil prices have already been going up. We just got our latest electric bill, and even though our usage had gone down, the bill was almost double what it was last month because of the price of oil and gas. We're seeing it at the gas pump, and it will get worse. And it seems like whatever the government does, it just makes life worse for the American people, and they do not seem to care. Now, Trump is sending a top team to China to try and talk with them about avoiding a trade war, saying that it really isn't realistic at this time. And Trump was out there tweeting how he wanted to meet Xi Jinping and basically de-escalate the tensions between the U.S. and China. And so, again, they're backing off that whole thing. Now, over in Tesla land, I think the pressures are getting to Elon Musk because apparently in a open phone call, a conference call, Elon Musk basically made a statement: we have no interest in satisfying the desires of day traders. We couldn't care less. Go ahead, sell our stock and don't buy it. And to nobody's surprise, Tesla shares fell sharply. Now, this leads to an article coming out of investmentresearchdynamics.com about how both Tesla and Amazon seem to suggest that there's a little bit of fraud going on, because usually for most companies, the stock analysts will pretty much peg the price of the stock. But in the case of Tesla and Amazon, they come out and declare their stocks to be worth quite a bit more. And according to this article, there's something highly suspicious about the way Bezos is managing the forecasts he gives to Street's analysts. Now, every company under the sun in this country guides analysts to within a few pennies of the actual EPS that will be presented. For the Street to miss this badly on estimates of Amazon 2 quarters in a row suggests that Bezos is intentionally misleading the analyst community. So that may be a problem. By the way, they just had a story on Fox News where apparently because Seattle is raising taxes, Amazon is canceling the plans for an expansion up there. Corporate media is not doing very well. ESPN is losing an average of 17,000 subscribers every single day. And some of this may be tied in with that whole football player kneeling situation, or it may be just another sign that people are tightening their belts and watching their spending and just saying, I really don't need to have ESPN on my my cable system. This is a very alarming story. Up in the town of Harvey, Illinois, it's a town of 25,000 people. They have hit a pension crisis. And because Illinois state law doesn't allow the town to file for bankruptcy or manage its own way out of the situation, basically they're just having to refill the pension fund from the city funds. And as a result, they're slashing spending, including laying off 40% of all their firefighters. Now, this is just the beginning of a problem we're going to start seeing all across the country, both public and private pensions. And all of this goes back to that 2008 meltdown of the mortgage-backed security fraud, because Wall Street's pet rating agencies gave all of these mortgage bundles AAA ratings, and that made it legal for pensions to buy them. Pension funds, because you're dealing with an aging clientele who don't have the luxury and youth to start over again, are only allowed to invest in AAA rated securities. And of course, everything went bust, the pensions were defunded, and for the most part, the pension managers have lacked the gonadal tissue to stand up and lay the blame where it deserves to be, on Wall Street. But that's where the blame lies. It's just completely out of control greed. And you look at the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots, and you'll see we're seriously out of balance in this country. Now, it's reasonable that in any economy, you're going to have some people who are richer than others. But normally, in a healthy government, there are ways to basically manage that, because you want ordinary working people to have a decent lifestyle to keep them content. And that's all gone away. There's a lot of very discontented people. We had callers yesterday talking about how hard they're having to work and how little they get for it. And the only available jobs, they can't pay rent or pay their bills with. It is really a mess. Now, out in California, they have something like 25% of the nation's homeless people, because California's got pleasant weather. You don't want to be homeless in Minnesota, especially in the winter. And the cost of cleaning up these tent camps, these shanty towns, are skyrocketing. And to make it even worse, the workers are having to deal with serious health hazards like buckets of fecal matter and dirty needles. Now, in a Democrat's paradise like California, you would think all those taxes and all those regulations would be able to house some people. But as the taxes and regulations increase, so does the homeless rate. It isn't working. Over in Spain, 500,000 people are rallying to demand better working conditions. And the largest rally took place in the Spanish capital with 50,000 people in attendance. And apparently there was some violence. There were an automobile garage, rather a car was burning outside of an automobile garage. And basically the whole point of the rally was the elimination of pay gaps between men and women at the workplace, as well as declaring illegal certain forms of mistreatment by employers. So that situation is getting into a lot of discontented people all over the earth. That's where we are right now. Everybody is getting unhappy. Over in Germany, a 33-year-old gentleman from Niger, Murtala Madu, beheaded his own daughter in front of a group of people and another child of the wife. And the one-day-old child died at the scene, obviously. The 34-year-old mother was reanimated but died because of her injuries in the hospital a short time later. And she leaves behind 4 children. So how's that open borders thing working out for you? We keep hearing these stories over and over and over again. And we understand that this whole open border, one world government is being imposed from above by George Soros and people who think like him. and they're just oblivious to the actual harm that they are causing. Over in the Netherlands, almost 90% of the refugees that have been allowed in are still unemployed after 2.5 years. So that means the Netherlands has to support them, welfare, whatever they call it, universal basic income, and that's a strain on the economy and the taxpayers. This isn't working, and I'm not surprised to see polls that are coming on out all across the EU saying this migrant integration has not worked out. Okay, apparently there was a May Day riot in Paris, and again, a lot of it seems to be these violent protesters who are angry because they didn't get what they were told they were going to get if they made it to Europe. And the police had to use water cannons to break up this rally. They arrested over 200 rioters. Apparently, hooded individuals threw smoke bombs and set vehicles on fire in the French capital. Now, Paris is the shining crown in France's tourism. But tourists don't want to go there anymore. In fact, we're seeing that all over Europe, where the migrants have come on in and just trashed the place, and the tourists are watching this on TV and saying, I don't want to go there. And that puts another strain on the economy of all these countries. It's all leading to a grand global crash. Sometimes I feel like a passenger on the Titanic, you know, and the captain's up there on the bridge saying, I'm going to move that iceberg. Now, this is a very alarming development. Again, happened in Germany. German police were forced to release a failed asylum seeker they were due to deport after being confronted by an angry mob of migrants. And the officers caved into the crowd's demands and fled to avoid an escalation. So now you've got mobocracy, where the migrants are able to basically block the police from enforcing the immigration laws. This took place in the town of Ellwangen in southern Germany, and they were due to find and deport a Togolese man, 23 years old, and a group of migrants surrounded the police and basically just, for all intents and purposes, chased the police away. Now, a little bit of good news, Costa Mesa has now joined the Orange County Rebellion against California's sanctuary law, and it was a close one, a 3-2 vote to adopt the resolution, and it was cheered, obviously, by the anti-open borders people, and roundly denounced by the supporters of unlimited immigration. But that's spreading. People have just had it. Doesn't matter how much propaganda they put on out there. It doesn't matter how much they scream racist. Sooner or later, the harsh reality of what is happening in the streets of America is unavoidable, and people are starting to react. Now, people are making a big deal over the fact that the Boy Scouts have now removed boy from their organization, and they're called simply Scouts, because being politically correct, they're going to allow girls in there. Now, this probably is going to be upsetting to the Girl Scouts, and I'm already foreseeing there are going to be some problems on those campouts. And I know that from personal experience when I was a Boy Scout, and we had a big camp out, and on the other side of this ravine, there was a Girl Scout camp out, and that ravine did not deter anybody from anything. So we'll see what happens there. Here's an interesting little article. This is out of Lew Rockwell. We mentioned this briefly the other day. There literally is a war on men. This is like the male bash militant feminism of the 1990s on steroids. They're coming out with pictures of men who are putting flowers in their beards and their hair, and they're saying that it needs to go further. we need to leave behind the image of masculinity. And over at the University of Texas in Austin, they rolled out a program called Masculine UT that basically treats men as though they are nothing more than violent rapists just waiting for a woman on whom to force themselves. And, slap them around a little bit because that's what men do. And no, there are some men who do that. There are actually some women who rape men. That's never talked about as well. But the idea is they're now trying to say that masculinity is being handled like it's a mental health problem, for which I'm sure Big Pharma will have a drug for. You're too masculine. You've got to take this pill. It's a hormone treatment. But it is. They're treating traditional masculinity as though it was a mental health issue. And you have American Thinker and PJ Media are saying this is outrageous, and it is outrageous. And it's another one of these cracked liberal ideas that never really pan out. How many different genders are we up to now? 47, 51, something like that? No, just look at the plumbing. There are boys and there are girls. All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors. Do join us on the air, 800-313-9443.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
About 6 months ago, my wife bought Extendivite. She didn't tell me she was giving it to me. So after about 3 days, I said, maybe the weather's changed or something. I said, my legs feel really good. And she goes, well, I've been giving you this stuff, and it was the Extendivite. And you know that I'm about 75% better. I can actually climb stairs now, and I can get up out of chairs. I can even get down and, I have to work under a table or a computer table and work on a computer. I can actually get back up off the floor. You know what? It's an amazing product. I can't believe, I didn't think anything short of having surgery was going to help.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
these remaining holes reveal what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And over in Oklahoma, their Senate just passed constitutional carry. And it was a contentious debate and ran late into the evening. But they finally voted it through, and it's going to the governor's desk. And it's expected that he will sign it. So people are starting to pull on back from this gun grabber nonsense and realize we have a right to be able to defend ourselves. And that was illustrated down in the city of Richardson, Texas, where this Roberto Rodriguez wanted an affordable iPhone for his 11-year-old daughter. So he went to Facebook Marketplace and he basically thought he found the right deal, $175 for an iPhone 7. So he and his wife Fernanda took their 3 kids to the East Fort Worth apartment complex the seller directed him toward. And basically, when they got out of the car, they were attacked. 4 men attacked them, apparently intending to rob them of everything, their existing iPhones, the car, the money. Fortunately, he had a High Point 380 in the door, and he was able to get it on out and basically chase off the robbers. And he fired he also fired a hole in the door of his car, which I'm sure is a small price to pay. But that's the reason we need to have guns. And there are 2 issues here. First of all, we have a right to defend ourselves from crime. Because when those 4 men attacked Roberto, there weren't any cops around. The cops are never there in time to thwart a crime. They show up afterwards to clean up the mess, to pose with the bodies for the newspaper photographers, and to act like they're relevant. And don't forget that story we had the other day where it turns out the CDC did a study of gun use in this country and discovered that firearms are used to stop crime almost 4 times more often than they are used to commit crimes. And they suppressed that study. Don't want you to know about it. Don't want you to know that there's actually a need for people to have guns. And the second issue, of course, is that if you are buying things online, you've got to be very careful how you set up the meeting. And it should always be someplace very much in public, a lot of potential witnesses around. When Claire and I were shopping for the replacement for our stolen Honda, we briefly considered going through some of these little websites that hook people up. But given that we were going to buy the car with cash, I figured the risk was too great, and we wound up going to a dealership. And we got ourselves a nice little, thankfully, gas-efficient car. We're going to take some phone calls. Mike in Chicago, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, you brought up Harvey, Illinois. I think there was an article I brought up about 3-4 weeks ago on it, and the article had the title had something to do with Harvey is going to be like the first domino to fall.
Yes.
With all these underfunded pension plans, and you could just see the writing on the wall. Oh, go ahead on the other side.
Yeah, Mike, stay on the line. I'm going to come right back to you after the station identification break.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free, for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. May 5th is the last day you will hear this offer on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're talking with Mike in Chicago. We're talking about this town in Illinois, Harvey, which has a massive pension crisis, and because of the way Illinois state law is written, they're not allowed to declare bankruptcy, and they're not allowed to find their own way to manage their way out of the situation. And as a result, in order to keep the money going into the pension fund, they're having to cut services, including 40% of their firefighters. Obviously, losing almost half the town's firefighters means that you're going to be in a situation where homes are burned to the ground. This is an impossible situation, and I would not be at all surprised if people start leaving Harvey. Mikey, you there? You're on the air, Mike.
I was going to say 10%. I don't know if the article said one that you're referring to. I believe 10% of the population is already gone out of Harvey. And I'm actually going. I see a person every day that I work with. In fact, I'm going to be going to see him again now. And he lives in Harvey, and he sees it. I mean, he sees the services being cut. Houses are like you just said, abandoned. And, just what you said, when you start to have abandoned houses, people start burning them down and stuff like that. But Harvey could be the domino that's going to fall. And it kind of reminds me of our dollar, because the dollar buys so much less now than it used to. Even in the 80s, you could get a whole basket of food. Now you can just get a few things in the basket for $20. You know what I mean? $20 is nothing now, right? So, we're going to be stuck with the problem. It's like Harvey. You know what I mean? There's no way out. They wrote the law to where there's no way to get out except to pull it in from other resources. And who's gonna be to blame? The little guy like you, like me. Of course, we're always to blame. Whether it's the hoax like global warming, or Harvey, or the mess in 08 that we've never gotten out of. It's always going to be our fault. Nobody else goes to jail, right? So it's really a shame. I just wish people would start to respond a little bit. And I don't know what people are doing. I guess they're just listening to the circuses on CNN and Fox News and all that, or maybe people don't even have time for that because they have no time. They're working 2 jobs and they can't pay their bills.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
That's why people can't respond. So, but yeah, thanks for bringing that article up. And by the way, part of the reason I'm going to talk to my buddy today, and then I'm going to get back to you because that's a real person who lives in Harvey, and I don't live there, but I live in Chicago, but not in that particular town. But I would rather talk to somebody who's actually living there, experiencing this, and getting some true feedback. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's a terrible situation, man. And hey, Mike, before I go, do you remember that movie Grapes of Wrath? Was it? That movie Grapes of Wrath?
Yes.
It was about the about the. You notice how people had to leave their homes, like Harvey, and they
Yes.
had, they had to go move somewhere else, and but it was so bad then, whereas they would move away, and there would still be no jobs, no more jobs. So that could be where we're headed. I mean, they're not going to need people very much longer with robots and Oh, by the way, the Marshall Fields is closing now. Toys R Us is closing. I think
Yeah,
it's Marshall.
we just lost ours.
Carson Perry Scott out of business. I just saw it. Going out of business, man. Toys R Us going out of business. And you're gonna tell me the economy's doing good and that Amazon is picking up the pieces for this? I don't think so. I don't buy it. And also we talked about yesterday, participation is going down. If you look at the chart, it's going down, 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 down. It's like 60% participation right now, right? And all the participation, you're participating in jobs that aren't paying the bills, right? These are low-wage service jobs. These aren't good manufacturing, programmer, computer programmer type, good-paying jobs. So anyway,
Yeah,
we could just
and
go on
that
later, but
makes the situation worse because, if people are being forced to accept lower paying jobs, they're also paying less taxes. And that is going to put even more stress on the city, state, local governments, who are simply running out of money. Trump's tax plan basically gave tax cuts to the ultra rich who really didn't need it. And that's just making the situation worse. So, yeah, we're on a path that is completely unsustainable. The train is about to run off the cliff, and nobody's willing to stand up and say, maybe it's time to put the brakes on.
right. Mike, with all these hundreds of trillions of dollars of IOUs that we're supposed to be servicing debt on, even if the government went to a cashless society, you guys were talking about this yesterday, even if they got the drug dealers, they couldn't pay in cash no more, maybe Bitcoin, but that's another story. But even if they could just give us everybody a card and tax everybody on everything, and have your money and lower interest rates to negative, all right, and all these games that they play on us, even if they did that, we're still doomed. I mean, I'd like to hear your opinion on that, but I believe we're indebted. We're so far in the hole right now. There's just, even if we went cashless and tax everything, the air you breathe, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
No,
Anyway.
it isn't. There's going to be some kind of a reset, either a complete collapse of the economy, or we're going to lose the war. One of the two. This nation cannot continue on the path that it is on for much longer. In fact, I'm frankly amazed that we have not had a major event in either the economy or the government. But we're seeing the fractures form all over. The facade is starting to crack on all of this stuff. And yeah, absolutely. We've got some very irresponsible people in government. We've got some almost certifiably crazy people in government. And I'm wondering how many of these people are on prescription antidepressants, because they muddle up your thinking. And that's not what we need in the halls of power.
That's right. Amen to that. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who just rejoined our network. And we're going to switch over to Laura in Michigan. Aloha, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. You're talking about that masculinity was a mental disorder.
Yes.
I'll tell you why they tell you this. They've done this before. Remember when they wanted men to get in tune to their feminine side?
Mm-hmm.
It's because men are truth and fact-based when they make a decision. Men don't rely on emotions. And I'll prove it to you. As soon as women got the vote, the suffrage, what was the first thing that came through? Prohibition.
Yes.
It was all emotional-based law. You see what I mean?
Yep.
And that's why I will never vote for a woman or a lawyer. If everybody would stick to that rule, we'd be a lot better off, because the women are not good in legislative positions. They're not going by truth and fact.
I think some are. You need to remember that at the time of suffrage, when the women's movement was first coming into its own. These were women who'd been raised in a culture that encouraged emotionality in women and the absence of same in men. And so, yes, they did act emotionally, and yes, women tend to be more emotional today. But there are women who are very rational. My wife is one. Tulsi Gabbard is one. And I'm going to look at the candidates and see, who's running and judge them on their merits.
But now I hear that she's for gun control. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking,
that's a
man,
disappointment, but
isn't
then that's a Democratic thing.
Exactly. So is that emotion or is that fact-based? You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
As your founding fathers wanted us, the voters, to be head of household landowners.
Yeah, originally,
There are a lot of people voting.
yeah.
There are a lot of people voting who don't have any skin in the game. They're living off the government welfare, whatever, and they're the same vote as I do, paying taxes my whole life.
Well, we certainly saw in 2016 that most of the campaigns were based on emotion, including that of Donald Trump, and voters are easier to sway with an emotional appeal, and that unfortunately is part of what's wrong with our electoral system.
That's also why when you go to a meeting, they only give you 2 minutes to talk, because what it is you're truth and fact based. And you want to lay out a reason for what you want at a township meeting or whatever. But emotional talks just need it. Like, oh, kill kittens and puppies. And the emotional talk only needs a minute. And they cut us off, and we can't lay out, like Robert's Rules of Order used to be, lay out our plan and whatever, and why we're asking for something.
I hadn't even thought about that before.
Yeah, that's why we're down to 2 minutes. You go to any meeting, county meeting, township, it's all 2 minutes. It's very hard in 2 minutes to lay out your facts and your data. The emotional person can just, rattle off something, and that's it. So think about that.
I will think about that quite a bit here. Anything else, Laura?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to switch over to Francis in North Carolina. Aloha, Francis. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, aloha to you both.
Aloha.
Just a quick thought. You go to a meeting such as that, whether it's city or county or whatever the case is, and you're getting ready to talk, make sure you have a timer set so that way when you get up there to actually start talking, they cannot cut across you as far as timing goes. And if they do, they are a default of cutting your time short. So guess what? They screwed up. As for another point regarding masculinity being attacked and so forth, I just had a very bad thought when you mentioned about that subject matter. I guess that means that the village people can no longer sing, I want to be a macho man.
You're probably right. That's now on the corporate media ban list.
And don't even ask me when that song was done, because I was surprised I even remembered it when you mentioned that issue. And I thought, oh my gosh. So anyway, have fun. Later.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open. And getting on back to the news, we're talking about education. And the numbers are not good. 65% of the 8th graders in American public schools in 2017 are not proficient in reading. 67% were not proficient in mathematics. This is according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress test results released by the U.S. Department of Education. And the results are actually a lot worse for students enrolled in some urban districts. And apparently the Detroit public schools had the lowest percentage of students who scored proficient or better in math, and the lowest percentage who scored proficient or better in reading. Now, people call it the dumbing down of America, and it certainly does seem to be happening. These are students who are not being prepared to enter the job market. And part of the problem is that schools are no longer about education, they're about indoctrination. And we saw that yesterday where Steven Spielberg was out there saying that Holocaust education ought to be a mandatory part of public education in the United States. And now over in Illinois, the Illinois Senate has just approved a bill requiring public schools to teach LGBT history. Now, I'm kind of old-fashioned about education. It should be about building social skills. It should be about learning real-world skills that lead to higher education or employment or both. The reason these kids aren't able to read and write is because so much time is being taken up with these other indoctrination issues, like human-caused global warming. And I got a chance to look at some of the Common Core materials. We used to have a neighbor who was involved with implementing Common Core here in Hawaii, and she let me take a peek. And there was just a lot of junk in there. Our public schools are not really preparing our kids to go on out and find jobs or to ascend to higher education. If you can't read and you can't write, you're not going to find a job. That is just the reality here. Another problem that we're seeing in the schools is they've moved away from fire drills, which we all remember. We never took them seriously, but hey, it was a chance to get out of the classroom and outdoors for a little while. But apparently now the schools are doing regular lockdown drills. And apparently these are a lot more noisy and dramatic than the fire drills. Now, over in California, we were talking about a bill that was under consideration that would require homeschoolers to pass the same checking process, if you will, certification process, as a regular teacher at a regular school. And this triggered a response among homeschoolers who basically came on out and said, no, this is not a good idea. The reason we're homeschooling is that we don't want our kids taught the approved curriculum in the public school. And so the message is, don't mess with the homeschoolers. We had the same thing happen here in Hawaii. And so they showed up in Sacramento, and apparently they have succeeded in getting this bill shut down. So good for them. Now, down in Florida, there's been an interesting development regarding that school shooting. We all know about the officer, the deputy, who stood outside while the shooting was taking place. And he came up with this lame excuse saying that he thought the shots were outside, and he was looking around for where things were going on. And of course, people are laughing at that. It's ridiculous for gunshots on the inside of a building to sound like they're on the outside of the building. But apparently, the father of one of the victims is now filing a lawsuit against the deputy. Now, I don't know if he's going to win, because the reality is that the courts have consistently ruled that law enforcement personnel are not under an obligation to save the citizenry from violent crime. That's unfortunately come down several times in recent history, which begs the question, what are they good for then? Just handing out traffic tickets? So I hope he wins his lawsuit. I don't think he will because of the legal precedents, but I think he will. I mentioned this story before in the show here, and apparently there was a student, Kazaya Daum, and she posted a Twitter photo of herself wearing the traditional gipao, and she was immediately accused of cultural appropriation. Oh my goodness, how could she do this? It's terrible. You're not allowed to appropriate other people's cultures. Chinese commentators are saying it's more a case of culture appreciation because the dress symbolizes a silent protest to promote gender equality after the fall of the dynasties and the beginning of the Republican period in the early 1900s. And it was worn during the 1919 reformist May 4th movement. Now, the student, Keziah Daum, has responded saying that, yeah, she's going to wear this dress again. She's not going to back down. And if you really think about it, almost everything you're wearing was appropriated from some other culture at some point in history. So it's another case of liberalism run amok. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. It makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate. I want to do.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And getting on to some of the health and science news here. Apparently over at Britain's National Health Service, they've had a major mess up and with their computer system. And some 450,000 women did not get their final screenings for breast cancer. And because of that, it was allowed to come back. And they're saying that some 270 women basically died So that is a serious, serious failure. And again, we have to be better at making these computers and their software work, especially when lives depend on it. So apparently surviving women who are going to be offered catch-up screenings, and a helpline has been set up, but it's a major mistake. You know, whoops, computer glitch, 270 people died. And there may be more of those 450,000 women where the cancer has come back and they just don't know it yet. Okay, now over in the state of Arkansas, an Arkansas judge has blocked medical marijuana dispensaries, and the reason given was the plant just grows naturally in the ground anyway, and so, you know, why privatize it? And I think that's a correct decision, but again, it's a complicated issue here. Now, this is an interesting story. This came out of Blacklisted News. Over in Stamford, Connecticut, there was this free speech and liberty activist, Michael Picard, and he'd harmed nobody, had not committed a crime. He was merely expressing his right to free speech by claiming the Stamford Police Department dislikes free speech. And within just a few minutes, the chief of police himself came out to prove Picard right, and he was immediately arrested. And last Thursday, Picard held up a sign that said, "Blank free speech, Stamford PD," attempting to point out the gross violations of the First Amendment committed by the department after they arrested another activist, Michael Friend, for holding up a different sign warning drivers of a distracted driving checkpoint ahead. And that's an area of conflict the police seem to be getting into. As you know, that there are all kinds of websites and services that will allow you to file reports of where the speed cameras are, the speed traps are, and people who tend to speed will then look at that information, and the cops are trying to get that shut down, all in the name of increased citation revenues, of course. And interestingly enough, a lot of states are now starting to look at legislation to ban the use of radar laser detectors in cars for exactly the same reason. And because the price of a traffic ticket has gone up so high, drivers are driving more carefully and they're sticking to the speed limit. I mean, here in Hawaii with our overcrowded roads, it's very hard to speed, but every once in a while I'll see somebody do it. But for the most part, everybody follows this posted speed limit. And we're starting to see police complain that everybody's driving too good and they can't justify writing tickets. It's getting silly here. Okay, Amazon is ordering Signal to stop using AWS, Amazon I don't know what the W stands for. It's one of their servers, to defeat censorship because repressive autocracies like Egypt, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates ban Signal and other encrypted messaging apps using national firewalls to try and block their traffic. Signal evades these blocks by using domain fronting, in which the service's cloud provider shows up as the origin of its traffic, forcing countries to block Google or Amazon to get at a single service hiding behind them. Now, the cloud companies obviously don't like this. Google has terminated its domain fronting service, which has prompted Signal to move to Amazon. And now Amazon is saying you can't do that. Now, there are legitimate reasons not to like domain fronting. It both allows good actors and bad actors especially to disguise the origin of their traffic. It's like people who make abusive phone calls while spoofing the caller ID. And it almost seems sometimes like every time there's a new development to make life better, it's immediately crippled, like caller ID, and it's misused. We have a mass marketing campaign going on here in Hawaii where the caller ID shows a number very close to where you live to make you think it's a friend, to make you pick up the phone. We're going to take another break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MigRelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MigRelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MigRelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're talking about computers, social media, and so forth. And by now you've probably heard Facebook, which is still struggling with its data exposure to Cambridge Analytica, is still moving ahead, turning itself into a gatekeeper platform. And Mark Zuckerberg is out there saying that Facebook is now ranking news organizations based on trustworthiness, meaning the news organizations Mark Zuckerberg himself thinks are trustworthy. And using that system, it's going to either boost or suppress individual posts. And he's already saying they're going to dial up the intensity of that. Now, according to BuzzFeed, Zuckerberg's meeting to launch this whole thing included representatives from BuzzFeed, The Information, Quartz, the New York Times, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, Recode, Univision, Barron's, the Daily Beast, The Economist, Huffington Post, Insider, The Atlantic, the New York Post, and others. So basically what it is, Facebook is now going to become a content delivery platform for the corporate media, and they're going to be shutting out the independent media, and that's why it's time to leave Facebook and find another social media platform that has a little more respect for the First Amendment. Because if the corporate media has their way, we're going to be in a world, we're already in a world war. We're going to be in a worse world war. And the fact that Zuckerberg is already saying they're going to dial this up is a warning sign. Now, Cambridge Analytica has decided to shut down because of the Facebook data scandal. And they haven't really gone away. The owners of Cambridge Analytica have already started a new company doing exactly the same thing called Emerdata. So nothing really has changed there either. Now here is a very good question. This is coming out of Zero Hedge. What's behind today's cybercrime explosion? And we all know it's out there. It's like open season on the American people, and it's been complicated by all these backdoors put into our systems by the NSA and the CIA and the chip makers, and apparently Israel did the same thing with the Intel chips that they manufacture. And they've bored holes through all of our security, and they've made these holes impossible for us to plug so that they can spy on us, because they're really a bunch of total paranoids who think the entire country wants to stand up and tie them to a tree or something. But it's made us vulnerable. And it really is out of control. And there's, mass emailing, spam emailing, there worms, ransomware, Trojans. It's really out of control, and it's forcing a lot of people to spend a lot more money on their computers trying to keep them secure. And more we're finding out that these security companies, at least within the United States, leave openings there for the intelligence agencies to peek through. And sooner or later, the cyber criminals will find those. We've left the age of some dorky little kid with a script generator in his parents' basement, just going on out and messing around with people just for the fun of it. These are sophisticated operations. This is organized crime. And it's costing the American people billions of dollars every year that we cannot afford. And nobody seems to want to do anything about it. Maybe our politicians own stock in the computer security companies. And the more we are victimized by cybercrime, the more money they make. Maybe that's what's going on. All right, we're going to take a phone call from Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, my mother just called me. She loves your show, but she's taking a break. She's so angry what's going on here with all these investigations, this Russian collusion, the Mueller and all that stuff. But she asked me a question. I said, well, I'll just throw up my mic. But the question is, if they gained those warrants, those search warrants, and wiretapping and all these other things illegally, they got the permission, the rubber stamp from the FISA courts. We now know that the evidence they showed the FISA court was not legit. So how come everything after that is still standing? Why is the investigation still going? Why wouldn't a judge just say, you gained these warrants illegally, you had no reason to, therefore everything after the fact is over, this investigation is shut down. And I just don't, in a court of law, that's usually how it works. But this appears to be done different.
Well, basically what's going on, you're absolutely correct. If the warrant was acquired through fraud, then all the evidence obtained under that warrant becomes inadmissible in a court of law. But what Mueller is trying to build is not a lawsuit or a civil case. He's trying to build a case for impeachment. Of course, all this material that was gained with this bogus warrant is being used by the corporate media to try and attack Donald Trump. And so it's all basically ammunition. It's a very crooked process. Now, whether this evidence would be considered admissible at an impeachment trial or not, I have to say I don't know, because an impeachment trial in the House of Representatives is not technically a court of law.
Now, if you were Donald Trump, would you continue playing this cat and mouse game, or would you just say, I'm not going to, I mean, you can subpoena me, I am not going to be there to question. Would you just finally put your foot down and say, enough of this nonsense? Show your cards. You haven't showed your cards. I'm not going to do this any longer. I'm done. I mean, could you do that or not?
I think he could invoke executive privilege. A lot of other presidents have done that as well. I hope the reason Trump has been soft pedaling it is because all of this is turning off the American voters. And it's one of the reasons why the Democratic poll numbers are in decline. This thing is a joke. The longer Mueller sits there and thrashes around with porn stars, the more ridiculous this whole situation looks. But I would expect there may be something dramatic as we draw closer to the November elections.
Okay, that's it. Well, let's hope my mom gets it out of her system, because she's pretty ticked right now. She's, I love Mike's show, but I got to take a breather because I'm so angry. Her blood pressure's up.
Sorry about that, Mom.
I don't blame her. My blood pressure's up.
You should see what
on
my
this
blood
stuff. I get
pressure is
very
right
angry.
now.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Yeah, it is. It's a very corrupt process, and I do think Trump should have put on those presidential brass knuckles and just say, yeah. First of all, based on the fact that Robert Mueller's investigation did not comply with the special counsel statute, and especially that it's gone so far off its original mandate, I think Trump would be well advised to just go ahead and fire him. And of course, the Democrats will scream, oh, cover up, cover up, cover up, obstruction of justice. But there's no obstruction of justice if Mueller hasn't found anything, and he hasn't found anything. That's why he's down there trying to create a scandal with that porn star. That's all they've got left. That's all they've found. And again, if you want to talk about collusion with Russia, why are we not seeing anything move on the Uranium One deal? Basically, we're seeing the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy just continue to go its own way. They clearly have no respect for the office of the presidency. They think they should be running the country. And there's nothing new with that. A lot of egos in Washington, D.C. When J. Edgar Hoover was head of the FBI, he referred to his office as the seat of the government, mostly because he had blackmail information on all the major politicians. Getting on back to computers, there is a new cryptocurrency mining virus. It is spreading through Facebook, another reason to not use Facebook, and it's disguised as a link for a video, and it may even appear to have been sent to you by somebody who's a Facebook friend. And cybersecurity researchers from Trend Micro are saying this is a malicious Chrome extension, and it's spreading through Facebook Messenger and targeting users of cryptocurrency trading platforms to steal their account credentials so their wallets can be emptied. We're living in a criminal society. We have a criminal government to go along with it here. Now, over at the Central Intelligence Agency, they're talking about a plan to replace human spies with artificial intelligence. And I assume that means more like the analysts rather than the spies who actually go into other countries, because AI is not that small yet. But they're looking at this AI system that will carry out intelligence operations, mostly by data mining all over the world. And They're basically saying foreign spies don't need to bother anymore. The technology is going to take it over from them. I really see limits to that, because for AI to be an effective spy, the target has to be connected to the internet. And sometimes some of the more clandestine parts of a foreign government are air-gapped. They're kept away from the net. Critical infrastructure like nuclear reactors, dams, factories, their computer control systems are not connected to the global internet for the obvious security reason. So this AI wouldn't be able to get in there. Maybe it's just another excuse to grab more money. All right, let's talk about human-caused global warming. It has been a rough winter, and we're seeing that the upper Midwest and Great Lakes states just endured a historically cold April. And it's another reminder that this whole global warming thing is a lot of nonsense. We're going to take another call from Chuck in Texas. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, I'm glad I'm giving it quick behind Steve. Look, folks, I really want you to take a look at something. This whole thing about all the Trump collusion and all that, it's all kabuki dance. There's nothing there, no crime, nothing. But they, sit in the back room, we're going to charge you with this, and we're going to make all this noise about it, and you'll get support from people that will never go anywhere. Don't worry about it. The guy's a billionaire. He can come up with an easy defense to blow this thing out of the water. Okay, we all know it's wrong. It's all illegal now, and he's not doing it. Why? Because they just need the distraction while Trump continues to march down the same scenario they always do.
Yes.
Republicans and the Democrats work together. There is no real conspiracy to get rid of Trump. He's their guy. But they want us to see him under attack, so we must support him because the left is after him, blah, blah, blah. That's all it is. You and I, if we were president, could put an end to it in a flash. And this genius billionaire can't? Really? Come on. They have Israel's president. This is what they wanted. It's the bottom line, in my opinion. Okay,
you may have a valid point.
Show. Yeah, I asked your board op to keep me online with him to skip me to whoever's collecting money. I hope he could he caught that. Mike, great show as always. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to switch over to Charlie in Los Angeles. Aloha, Charlie. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Got a little bit of gun control on my mind. I was wondering, after all that's been said and done and everything that's happened after Parkland, do you feel anybody was really killed at that school?
It's hard to say. I know that a lot of people doubt that anybody was really killed at Sandy Hook, but they may have said, yeah, we need some actual real dead bodies here. And what we do know, because we had Wolfgang Halbig on the show, who designed their security system, is the official story is got more holes than a block of Wisconsin Swiss cheese. And again, we're lied to, and the fine details don't really matter. We just have to stand up and agree on what we agree on. We're being lied to constantly by this government, by the corporate media. We're being tricked and defrauded and hoaxed into supporting agendas that are not in our own best interest.
To get one more question, Mike.
Sure.
You think what is a more efficient killing machine? An AR-15, which is basically a 22 with a bigger shell behind it, or a 45 automatic with a couple of clips?
If you're a good shot, either one will work. But obviously, if you're not a good shot and you're within range, the 45 auto definitely carries more energy to the target.
Absolutely. What we have here with this AR-15, it's in every shooting. It's optics. It's a scary-looking gun.
Yes.
But the 45 can look like any handgun. Now, at 20 feet, a 45, you shoot a girl in the shoulder, you're going to blow her arm off.
Yep.
Okay. That gun can be smuggled underneath a jacket, even in the fall, in your pants. But the AR-15, you could just easily grab that barrel. I mean, there's so much to grab from that. What we have here, I think, Mike, is optics, it's propaganda. It's always the AR-15. If they want to get any of the guns, they want that AK-47. But in reality, 45 automatic, especially in a school where it's close proximity with all these people, it wouldn't even take you don't even need to be trained how to use it because you're that close to people. So none of this ever makes any sense. All the way back to the Batman shooting, it's always this AR-15, this evil-looking gun, and it's a propaganda campaign to get the high-capacity magazines out of the hands of people. But I mean, look at a 45, man. I'll take my chances with the AR-15 any day because unless you hit a vital organ, you're not going to die. 45 is going to cut a hole into your belly like you can feel your blood out in a minute.
You do know that one of the reasons the AR-15 sporting rifle is so popular is that with just a few tools, you can change the caliber of ammunition it uses. All you have to do is change the barrel, the bolt, and the magazines, and you can fire anything up to a 45 with it. Most people prefer to stay with the .223 because they don't really need more power than that. Most people with a sporting rifle, they're either target shooting or varminting with it. Anyway, listen, Charlie, stay on the line. We got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're talking with Charlie in Los Angeles. We're talking about gun control. And the reason the gun grabbers are focused on the AR-15 is it is a weapon that gives the American people some parity with the U.S. military. And that's really what it's all about. They're not interested in reducing crime. In fact, every time there's another gun ban, crime actually goes up. What they're interested in is taking away from us our Second Amendment right. And that Second Amendment is not about hunting. It's not about target shooting. It is about giving the government a good reason to mind its own business. And that's why there are all of these false flag attacks are always done with AR-15s or AK-47s that are quasi-military weapons. Because in the event of a social crisis, they can be converted to full auto if you feel like wasting that much ammunition.
Yeah, they always talk about the AR, but I think in the back room they want that AK because
Yes.
that's a dependable weapon. And
Yes,
that,
it is.
And that round is worldwide. You know, even like a hunting rifle, a 30-06 will kill a 300-pound animal 250 yards away, dependably. You know, you only need one shot. I mean, that gun, a 30-06 is, you know, an AR-15 is nothing compared to a 30-06.
Well, military weapons are
I think
not...
the AR is it's a selling program.
The military-style weapons are designed to wound rather than kill. They can kill, but that's the intention of the small caliber, is to wound the enemy soldier so it takes two other soldiers to take care of him. All battles ultimately are a numbers game. And you're absolutely right. Hunting weapons are definitely far more lethal. But again, they want the weapons that would be used by the American people to basically throw off tyranny.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, thanks for taking my call.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and the phone lines are now open. If you hadn't realized it by now, I am definitely pro Second Amendment, and I don't own an AR-15. Somebody sent me the parts for one once, and I decided to try and put it together because I used to build, when I was a kid, black powder guns. And I got about halfway into this thing and realized I was way over my head. And so I gave the parts to a neighbor who is a big fan of the ARs, and he completed the weapon. And one of these days, we're going to go to the gun range, and he's going to let me shoot it. But I believe everybody has a right to self-defense. And when you look at how much crime is taking place right now, like that story of the guy who wanted to buy the iPhone, and he saved himself and his family by having a firearm with which to defend himself. That's just common sense. And the gun grabbers, they're not concerned with your safety. They're not concerned with the fact that crime goes up everywhere that law-abiding citizens are deprived of their weapons. They just have this idea. They want to hang on to power, and they see you as a threat. That's the real danger right now. The government sees you, the American people, as a threat and an enemy. And they're certainly treating you like it between the erosion of the Bill of Rights and the constant spying into our electronic devices. They're afraid of you is what it really comes down to. We're going to take a break for station identification. We will be right back.
My name is Don Wiskin, and at 42 years old, I suffered a massive heart attack, lost 35% of my heart to damaged tissue, and was supposed to spend the rest of my life on disability. What did I do? I took Extendivite, a garlic and cayenne mix of 7 herbs which rebuilt my heart and gave me back my life. For over 17 years now, I have made this formula available to you so you don't have to suffer the same thing I did. Clean your blocked arteries and strengthen your heart and boost your natural immune system. I'm 60 years old now and I still work every day. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking about the winter is still lingering on. We're into May, and there's still snow falling in the northern hemisphere. And getting on back to the upper Midwest and Great Lakes states, temperatures were between 8 and 14 degrees below the historical norm. So they got really cold over there. Now, the good news is that the late snow has allowed ski resorts all over the West to remain open. And apparently they're predicting another round of heavy snow in the higher elevations across the West. Winter weather alerts extend from Laramie Range in Wyoming to Big Bear in California. More than a foot of snow is expected to fall, especially in the Rockies of Colorado. So it's still coming down. Snow was reported in Flagstaff and along Mongolian Rim communities. They're calling it a surprising early May dusting. There was another article that went a different way with it. We've seen a lot of these lately where they'll report that there's been this unexpectedly late heavy snow, and then they say it's not that unusual, really. Back in 1842, we got snow this late in the year. But the issue is not whether it's an all-time record snowfall or all-time late snowfall. It's that this totally puts the lie to all the claims by the carbon Nazis that snowfalls were going to be a thing of the past, because we're not seeing the world actually get warmer. And what we're hearing is a lot of nonsense where the carbon Nazis, they're still out there trying to claim that global warming is why the winters are colder, which is complete, sheer, utter nonsense. Apparently, so much snow has fallen in San Bernardino Mountains, they've called a chain alert. In other words, you have to have chains on your tires, snow chains. That's a lot of snow for that here. Apparently, over in Switzerland, 4 alpine climbers have died and another 5 others are in critical condition. They got caught overnight by an unexpected snowstorm. So what's going on here? Well, the carbon Nazis, the cult of global warming, the Goristas, if you will, are out there trying to sell you the idea that Earth is stable, the sun is stable, the only thing that impacts climate is human activity. And that's an absolute falsehood. There is a very small impact of human activity on the climate. It's inevitable. Every life form has a small impact on the climate. But the largest determinant of global temperatures is the sun. And it does not stay constant. And over at the Daily Mail, they've got an article where they're showing an image by cameras on NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, and it's showing a barren orange globe, no sunspots. Now, if you remember the story of the Maunder minimum, Maunder was an astronomer who was studying the sun back when the Little Ice Age was paralyzing Europe. And he noted that all during this cooling phase, there was a lack of sunspots on the sun. And he called it the Maunder minimum. Now, we've only been able to really study the sun scientifically with instrumentation other than filters and telescopes. for the last 100 years. And everybody now knows about the 11-year sunspot cycle, the 22-year magnetic cycle, but there are indications of longer cycles that we're just starting to understand. And Russian astronomers have said they see evidence of a 60-year cycle and a 30-year cycle, and one that's probably about 120 years, but until we get another 20 years down the road, we don't know. But several of these cycles are coming to the same low point next year. And researchers are saying this photo from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory is a bit of a surprise because the sunspots are vanishing faster than expected, and the current solar cycle may come to an end sooner than previously thought. And we have been seeing a decline in solar activity for a few years now. And temperatures are getting cooler. It's been unusually cool here in Hawaii. This is the first day where we have normal Hawaii-like temperatures. But that's really what's going on. What determines climate on Earth is solar output and the shape of the Earth's orbit and the orientation of the Earth toward the sun. That's what does it. That is the overwhelming dominant factor in global warming. But the liberals don't want to believe that. They want to believe that they can fix the Earth, that they can save the Earth from all you icky-poo human beings, especially you conservatives. All it takes is money and obedience. That will fix everything. There wasn't really a problem. Climate always changes. It always has. It always will. The problem is that a lot of governments, community, state level, county level, bought into the global warming situation. And when they did their budgets for the year, they would say, well, we don't need quite as much road grid, and maybe we can do with one less snowplow. And so when these heavy winters hit, they got caught off guard. And that's where the harm comes on in. Okay, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Interesting article coming on out of doctors, hang on, let me get this, drcircus.com. And basically, they're coming out with this idea that global warming disorder is a serious mental disease. And it's probably tongue-in-cheek, but they're out there saying that the people who are still pushing global warming, they won't listen to the facts. They won't look at the raw data. They just look at their computer models and say, see, the computer models prove this. Computer models can't prove anything. They can simulate the real world, and you can obtain data from it, but if the computer model is flawed, and climatologists have now admitted that the computer models showing intense warming were in fact misprogrammed. They overstated the importance of certain aspects. In Great Britain, there was a lawsuit where the courts decided that global warming has the status of a religion because it's a belief structure. It's not really science. Britain also required a disclaimer to be read in every classroom before Al Gore's mockumentary, An Inconvenient Truth, was shown to the class because of all the mistakes that were in there. Now, I'm sure some pharmaceutical company is already cooking up a medication to treat global warming disorder. Actually, ice cubes will do that, I think. Here in Hawaii, we're looking at a situation down on the Big Island. They've had 250 earthquakes recorded in 24 hours and the collapse of one of the crater's floors. And we just had another quake down there, magnitude 5, which is very unusual. And they're thinking there could be a major eruption about to happen. And the quakes are running all the way from Kilauea Crater all the way out to the far tip, what's called the Eastern Rift Zone. And the Eastern Rift Zone is rather notorious as the place where the town of oh, what was it named? Well, there was an entire town was wiped off the earth by a lava flow. So things are shaking down there. After the radio show, I'm going to set up my little seismograph and see if I can pick them up, because especially with a magnitude 5, I think I felt it. I thought it was a truck going by. But that's real serious. Also, a lot of quake nervousness off the coast of Oregon. And they had a 4.0 quake 122 miles off the coast at Bandon. That quake follows 2 others in the 4 days along the Oregon coast. Saturday, there were 2.3 magnitude, Thursday, 3.8. And the reason people are concerned has to do with a geological structure called the Cascadia Fault System. And if you look at a fault map, you will see San Andreas, which everybody's afraid of, runs up along the California coast. It goes into the ocean, passes off Oregon. But there off of Oregon, there is another fault system. It's a little box shape. And seismologists are concerned that there's actually more pressure on the Cascadia Fault than there is on the San Andreas. And that a major quake of the Cascadia Fault is probably going to dump a tsunami into cities like Seattle. So everybody's getting a little bit nervous. The earth is shaking like crazy. Over in Yakima, Washington, they're having what is called a slow motion landslide at a place called Rattlesnake Ridge. And it basically involves a 20-acre chunk of the mountainside, roughly 4 million cubic yards of rock. Now, it started sliding slowly down the hill, and right now it's going 2.5 inches a day. The problem is, at any time, it could speed up. Now, what turns a slow landslide into a fast landslide is when air starts to get trapped under that leading edge and acts as a lubricant. So planet Earth, I think, may be sending us some messages here about how we're behaving. Apparently over in Scotland, they were planning on restarting their Hunterston B nuclear power plant, and they've discovered one of the nuclear reactors has expanding cracks in the core. And they say it's going to delay the restart of this power plant. If you've got cracks in the core and you don't just replace the entire core, then you shouldn't start that thing up, or you're going to run into trouble. Over at Fukushima, they've gotten another radiation-proof robot in there to look at the reactors, and they're still finding all of this melted radioactive debris all over the walls. It's going to be a horrendous cleanup mess to deal with. And both of these reactors, Fukushima and Scotland, are a good argument for looking into the thorium cycle reactors, which don't have the same kind of danger. But the reason the U.S. government likes uranium fission reactors is you get bomb stuff out of them. You get plutonium. Okay, over in Denver, there's an oil refinery. It's called Suncor Energy, and it's been discovered from recent tests. It's been spewing out over 8.5 tons of cyanide gas over the low-income communities that surround it. Notice how these things always happen to the low-income communities, like Flint, Michigan, and water. And apparently, the refinery is somehow exempt from disclosing their cyanide emissions to the public. But independent tests have shown the output of the gas to be absolutely astronomical. I wonder how many people are feeling sick and don't understand why. According to the Cross Community Coalition Director, Candy DeBaca, air quality control officials actually gave the refinery a special permit that allows them to release levels of toxins that surpass recommended levels. This is coming from the air quality officials who are supposed to be protecting the air quality. And instead, they handed this oil refinery a pass saying, yeah, you can put out all this stuff that you want. And it's absurd to think that these officials would do that. But we keep seeing time and time again that these officials that are supposed to be taking care of us are actually aiding the industries that we assume, or we've been told, they're overseeing. We saw that with the Minerals Management Service. which ignored the fact that the manual blowout preventer on the Deepwater Horizon was 4 years overdue for mandatory maintenance, and that blew and jammed and resulted in the Gulf oil disaster. We had the Securities Exchange Commission turned a blind eye to Bernie Madoff with the loot and his little Ponzi scheme, $60 billion gone there. We have a totally unaccountable government that has gone completely fascist, because the definition of fascism is when government authority and corporate interests are aligned together against the general population. And when you see these air quality officials hand this oil refinery permission to exceed the mandated safety levels for emitted toxins, that's fascism at work. Now, over in Great Britain, there's been a 2-year legal battle confirming suspicions that the British police are targeting anti-fracking campaigners under the Counter-Terrorism Prevent program. So anti-frackers are being treated as domestic extremists like jihadists and neo-Nazis. And there's nothing new there. We saw the same thing back in the 1960s with COINTELPRO, where the FBI, in addition to targeting the anti-war movements and the civil rights movement, they were going after Native Americans, they were going after the early feminists. And we're probably seeing much the same thing here today, where the corporations are saying, we don't want people talking about fracking. Okay, we'll come down on the anti-frackers. We don't want people talking about vaccine safety. All right, we're going to silence them on that. We don't want people talking about GMO safety. We are really getting into George Orwell's dystopian vision. They're already out there attacking our First Amendment right to freedom of speech. They're saying there should be exceptions. And the first exception, of course, is criticism of the government of Israel. They just passed that law in South Carolina. I would hope somebody is going to take that to the Supreme Court, because the right to freedom of speech is universal and absolute. And the First Amendment was given to us to protect the truth, not to protect the liars. And it seems like that is what's happening today. Okay, if you have a Twitter account, you need to change your password. Apparently there's been a data compromise over there, and something like 330 million users' login information has been exposed. So you may want to do that. By the way, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Let's get a few more phone calls in here to finish out the show with. Over at Spotify, their shares have plunged after its first earnings report reveals it's still losing money despite having 75 million paid subscribers. That's not good. Not good at all. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. I'm getting back to some of the other stories that we missed earlier in the day. As you know, over in Syria, Israel is threatening to attack Syria's air defense bases that have the new S-300 missile if one dares to be used against an Israeli plane who's bombing Syria at the time. It's a rather arrogant statement to make. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has now asked Russia to stand down in Syria air defenses, or they will be attacked too, and will be off and running with a major global war. Over at Dick's Sporting Goods, as you know, they took a hit from their customer base for dropping the sporting rifles. Now, apparently, they've started lobbying for gun control. So they've definitely drunk that gun grabber Kool-Aid here. Here's an interesting story about what can happen when you're feeling your oats. Apparently, there was this driver who drove by a red light camera. And there was a sign that said red light photo enforced. And he decided to flip the camera the bird. And that resulted in a SWAT team raiding his home and arresting him, and 8 months in prison. That is a little bit of an overreaction, I would say, especially because flipping the bird, I think, would be considered freedom of speech. It's amazing. And of course, everybody's still talking about the fact that Donald Trump just like Barack Obama, is a warmongering president, and he gets nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Israeli activists are out there saying that Benjamin Netanyahu should get the Nobel Peace Prize. And all three of them getting a Nobel Peace Prize is a joke. More than that, it's an insult. Now, whether Trump will actually win or not, we don't know, because following the firestorm of criticism over Obama's win, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee came on out and said that, yes, tremendous political pressure was brought to bear. I don't think they want to go through that again. We're going to take a break for commercials. Call into the show, 800-313-9443, and we will be right back.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown that they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month, and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to take a phone call from Richard in North Carolina. Aloha, Richard. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. This is kind of a fluff call in a way. I just wanted to call and tell you how much I appreciate the show.
Well, thank you.
I started out on, I started out on this trek back in 1968 at Kent State when I was a student there with my first wife, and we were very near the National Guard when they shot the students.
Oh, wow. That's got to be a bad memory.
it's a bad memory. One of the girls who was killed, Alison Krauss, was actually a student in a dormitory where I had a university job of doing maintenance, and I used to see her there, and I have to admit I was a young guy and I thought she was awfully foxy. But, she ended up getting killed, one of the four, so out way far away because the National Guard shot out over the students who were close by. But anyway, had a lot of things like 9/11 and so forth I was involved with, but I've got to admit that I try to keep track of everything, but I don't keep track anywhere near as how accurately and thoroughly you keep track of everything. So I donate to RBN, and I'm just really glad that you're there.
Well, thank you. You know, I'd rather be doing something else. I'll be very, very honest. If we had an honest government and a media that reported the truth, you know, I'd shut all of this down and I'd spend what few years I have remaining as Claire's roadie.
That would be a good thing. If only it could happen. I don't think things are going to change for the better, of course.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Anyway, so I'll get off the horn and leave you be. So have a good evening.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open again. A little update on that story about Fukushima. Apparently, it is so radioactive in reactor number 2, they weren't able to send in a robot. What they did is they put a camera on this 50-foot rod and stuck it on in there to get these pictures. And I don't know how they're going to clean that mess up. I really don't. I really don't. It's horrible. It really is. And we have all this nuclear waste piling up and no place to put it. It's another disaster waiting to happen. We're going to take another phone call. Richard in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Or was that Richard? Oh, that was Richard. Okay, I forgot to clear my screen. That's my bad. Too many buttons to push. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so getting on back to the news here. Apparently, customers are going to be forced to hand over an extra 90 pounds a year for gas and electricity from EDF if they choose to pay by check or cash. And that's something that we're probably going to see coming to the U.S. as well. They want you on that direct bank transfer system or the cashless society, and they're going to claim that it costs them money to process the checks, which, yes, it actually does. And it probably costs a lot less to do electronic transfer. But for a lot of people whose income is very unsteady, you know, we want the choice of when the payment gets sent. Now, very early on, if you're my age, you probably remember one of the first online, I guess you could call it social media platforms, was CompuServe, which was started by the H&R Block company to try and make money off their computers outside of tax season. And one of the things it did allow was direct bank payments to your local merchants. But you got to pick when it was going to go on through. And I tried it for a little while, but, you know, I like being able to just write out a check, put it in an envelope, stick on a stamp. Yes, I'm an old guy. I'm an old fogey. What can I tell you? Now, a lot of people are getting very concerned about these smart meters. And I know there's been a lot of talk about they're monitoring your home, which supposedly they can do. The radiation from them is bad for you, which taken together with all the other electromagnetic radiation out there is also possibly true. But the real issue for most people is that when they switch over to the smart meters, for some reason their electric bill goes up. And either the meters are not calibrated correctly, or it was just an excuse to charge more for less product. But apparently, this one story here saying it was almost mind-shocking how much the bill went up. Okay, now over in Memphis, one of their utility services had cutoffs near 130,000 last year, and people are saying it was the increase in the bill following the installation of the smart meters that may have led to many of those being disconnected. People are just running right on the edge. They don't have money. And any increase in a bill is going to be a problem. And if you're induced to take one of these smart meters, which is intended to save the power company or water company money by not having to send somebody around to take the meter reading, and your bill goes up, that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. Okay, we're going to take another break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigRelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigRelief migraine formula. MigRelief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigRelief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality. Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. Now, one of the big stinky issues that is circulating around Washington, D.C. Is the degree of spying on Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. And apparently, the FBI was monitoring his calls. Now, originally in the first NBC report on this, they said the FBI listened to the phone calls. Then they updated the story to say the FBI monitored. Personally, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe monitored sounds a little better than listened to, although I think they're basically one and the same. But it does raise an issue of how this deep state, which James Comey said didn't exist and then promptly went on to describe, is a force unto itself. It sees itself as the government now, and it's unanswerable to the president, to the executive branch. They are acting illegally. It's a criminal government. They're acting like a mafia gang. All right, we're going to take a phone call from Jerry in Chicago. Aloha, Jerry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. Because I never heard the swoosh. Hey, I wanted to start off real quick by just asking you. I got a really stiff neck. Should I blame it on Russia and Putin or climate change?
I would say, given the cold winters, blame it on Russia and Putin. I'm blaming Putin for my bad back. It's all his fault.
Oh, okay. Hey, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I installed smart meters here in the Chicagoland area for a company called Commonwealth Edison, which is an Exelon corporation.
Okay.
Affiliate through a union subcontractor to ComEd because ComEd just didn't have enough people. Now, most of the people that lost their jobs that used to go door to door and read meters once a month, they were trained on how to put in smart meters. Now, they are not electricians, okay? So I heard some stories last week on RBN on one of the shows. Might have been Deanna Spangola, talking about the people that were inadequate at putting in smart meters. You know what? I can agree wholeheartedly. But I am in an apartment complex. I've got 5, approximately 9 inches from the hinge of my back door, 5 meters.
Okay.
And I'll tell you something, too. I noticed my electric go up, too. And in Chicagoland, they had an opt-out option. If you didn't want the smart meter, you just paid an extra $22.50 a month. So, you know, with the electric rates rising when these things go in, they're paying for that option of the $22.50 a month to opt out. That's as plain and simple. They have taken the American people and they have grabbed them by the ankles and they're shaking them for all the loose change before they go 5G. And I think the smart meters, too much evidence is out there that the smart meters, the grids for like Sprint and Verizon, the cell towers, and the 5-star energy rated appliances and the cell phones. I mean, there's a lot of connections that just seem a little bit fuzzy to me. But that's all I wanted to say, and I wanted to hear your comment, and I'll get off the air so the next guy can call in.
Okay, well, we do have multiple lines, so we can have multiple callers here. I had read all these stories about people whose homes were severely damaged because the smart meters were exploding, but it sounds to me like it may just be a case of improper installation. When you realize that the building's, the home's entire power goes through that meter, if it isn't wired absolutely correctly, there can definitely be an issue. It's not like wiring a light fixture, you know, where you're on the good side of the circuit breakers. So that may be an issue. But the idea that they're hiring unskilled people to do electrical work on people's homes, that's a very, very scary situation. In terms of the radiation from the devices, it's hard to say that any one device emits radiation that's harmful. There's a lot of people who are out there saying cell phones cause brain cancer. There is no empirical evidence to support that. But I'm concerned about the sum total of electromagnetic radiation we're exposed to. And that's not just the cell phone, it's the Wi-Fi, it's police radio, citizens band, ham radio, TV, over-the-air signals, over-the-air radio signals, VHS walkie-talkie communications, radars. We got a lot of radars here in Hawaii, and they're very, very powerful. And I think the sum total of that electromagnetic energy may be an issue, and it's something that really ought to be studied, I think. and dealt with, because, but again, we live in a country where the government won't want you to know about this kind of thing. The government, for a lot of years, tried to hide the link between petroleum products and carcinogens. We've seen companies like Monsanto that will, literally bribe politicians to pass laws to prevent GMO labeling. They went to court with California over the probable human carcinogen ruling. Fortunately that they lost, but that's apparently the way these CEOs and these politicians think. It's get what I want now, and I don't care what it does to anybody else. And that's probably one of the reasons why the American people are getting so fed up with all that's going on. We are being exploited. As that last caller said, it's like being picked up by the ankles and shaken to get those last few coins out of your pocket. But we're running out of coins. And that's what's really going to trigger the economic downfall. Okay, somebody on the line?
Yeah, I never got cut off, so I'm just listening.
Oh, okay, my mistake. Yeah, where was I? The attitude of these politicians seems to be, I want what I want now, and I don't care what it does to the rest of the environment, and again, or the people. And again, that is a hallmark of a fascist government. Mussolini is the one who said fascism ought to be more properly called corporatism, because it is the alignment of corporate interest and government authority against the general population. And we're there. We're there. We're seeing all these vaccines made mandatory, despite growing evidence that they are harmful. And by the way, now the FDA has been required to honestly list some of the adverse reactions to vaccines on that little package insert that comes with a medication. You can also see it on the FDA's website. The doctor's not going to tell you that, but they now say, yes, this vaccine could supposedly cause autism. And it's all about greed. It's all about pushing product. And when people don't buy the product of their own free will, we're seeing more and more laws to force us to buy things we otherwise would not want, vaccines being one of them. And it really is. I am starting to think that caller earlier in the show was on the right track. We are far too gone to ever recover. We're just going to have to see where this is all going to end up. Is it going to end up in a world war that we're going to lose? Or is the economy going to implode? And more people talking about it's time to basically get rid of the government. And I don't champion that idea, because the wrong people always get hurt in those sorts of things here. So anyway, a lot of people are getting very, very nervous over the fact that Trump has sent these Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine. We talked about this yesterday, but we're now starting to see the reaction come in from around the world that this is a dangerous escalation. And the indications are that there's going to be a move in Ukraine this month against the Donbass, and that's going to bring the world closer to a war between U.S. interests and Russian interests. I'm very alarmed about Israel now threatening Russia to stand down their air defense systems. Russia's not going to do that. In fact, I think because of that, Russia is now more likely to target an Israeli warplane. So that is going to flash up into the situation. Why is it that we have these crazy people in such positions of power? I keep coming back to wondering how many of these people are on prescription antidepressants, because they muddle your thinking. And the thinking of most politicians and leaders is already crazy enough to begin with. But I've looked at the poor quality thinking coming out of Washington, D.C., and think there has to be an explanation. Is there lead in their water, like in Flint, Michigan? Are they being exposed to other heavy metals like mercury? Is Washington, D.C. turning toxic? You ought to go and look at Washington, D.C. on Google Earth sometimes. The buildings around the mall, the White House and so forth, those are not rendered in 3D. Somebody was concerned that terrorists could use that information for some nefarious purpose. But if you look around, you'll see that our capital city is seriously deteriorated. And I remember in the last, hang on a second, the Bourne film, the last Bourne film, where he meets this lady spy at this park in Washington, D.C. I remember seeing just the pavement of the sidewalk they were walking on was just all torn up. This is our nation's capital, and it's falling into disrepair. Anyway. All right, so we're coming up here on the end of the show, and I've actually run out of things in my talking points to talk about, so I'm just going to ramble on here a little bit. I normally don't talk about TV shows and films, but I have to tell you, I'm a little disappointed with the new season of Westworld. It seems almost lost in its own way. It doesn't have the sharp focus of season 1. And I've seen 2 episodes now, and it seems stalled. And I remember when I was working on the TV series Lost, we went through this phase where the writers sort of got trapped by the world they'd created. And that's what ultimately led to that final series finale where everybody discovers they've just been dead all along, which we all thought was a cop-out. Okay, we got another caller on the line, Mateus in Canada. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. I haven't called in for a bit. As you know, I often like to be wildly off topic, and so I was like waiting for a slow news day, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I wanted to just share a little bit of a philosophical, positive perspective on everything, if you would indulge me.
Yes.
Okay, so starting off more negative is that I completely give up on politics. Personally, I can't imagine how anybody could get all enthusiastic and excited for another election campaign, pretty much in any country.
Yes.
And the second point is that we may all be getting blown up soon anyways. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. My instinct is that it's not going to happen. But, you know, if we're just intellectually honest about the situation, our species is close to an extinction level event. And on another point, you can't solve a problem until you recognize that the problem exists in general.
Yes.
And let's not, I don't mean to offend anybody personally. There's a lot of good people out there. But I don't know why I'm nervous. I'm usually not nervous calling in. I think it's because I feel that this is really important. So if we're honest about it, as a species, this is a failed species situation, what we're looking at here. And I do understand that there is like a rescue attempt going on right now, like with your show and other efforts. But it does look like it's not working. And all that considered, I would like to share a positive spin on even a failed species event. Now, this won't be that interesting to you personally because you don't personally believe in life after death or reincarnation or a Christian version of that. But for the people that do, I just wanted to share an idea. So, philosophically, light is not the absence of dark. Dark is the absence of light, which means that light has a primary reality. Darkness doesn't really actually have a reality. Darkness is nothing. Light is something. So if the analogy of light being a god or love or an intelligence in the universe, following this logic through, the light, the love, the God is the only primary true reality, and the darkness is actually not even real. It's an illusionary reality. So if that's true, even if we fail as a species here, we don't lose completely on a spiritual perspective because of the next thing I want to say kind of justifies this, is that light can exist without darkness. But light cannot emerge. Light can only emerge from darkness, meaning if light is everywhere, if love is everywhere, God is everywhere, it can't express itself. It can't go anywhere. It can't do anything.
Okay, Mateus?
Because
Mateus, I'm sorry to cut on in. We're coming up on a commercial break, and we are actually coming to the end of the show here. I take exception to your idea that we are a failed species. I think what we're seeing is a failure of governmental and economic systems, but that is not something that's predicated on our biology. It's obviously a function of greed and corruption among the politicians. And there have been failed systems before, like ancient Rome, and the humans went on to develop new systems and new civilizations, and I think the human race is going to do exactly the same thing. I know that somewhere down the road, ultimately, humans will become extinct. Something will evolve that will be much smarter, more ruthless, and cleverer than us, and think humans taste just dandy, or could be microbe, or whatever. That extinction is part of the process. But humans have been on this planet in our present form for something like, 100,000 years at least. And we don't even know what civilizations rose and fell before the last great ice age, because all of that evidence would have been scrubbed away. But we're always finding these places like Göbekli Tepe that remind us that humans have been here for a very, very long time. Now, we're at our technological...
It's just the nuclear weapons are the problem this time. The nuclear weapons are the problem, unfortunately, this time.
The nuclear weapons are the problem, and we're not going to get rid of them because there's always going to be some government like Israel that wants to cheat the system. I think the only way to guarantee safety is for every nation to have a nuclear weapon. Anyway, listen, Mateus, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you for your time. You gave me a generous amount of time. I appreciate that, and I do agree with your point that we all need to be well armed, to be well prepared to avoid that. Thank you very much. Have a great
All right, we'll be back with the last segment of our program. We've got another caller waiting on the line, and I think I just felt another earthquake from the Big Island. So we'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. a safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Final segment of our program today. We're going to take a phone call from James in Ohio. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I've mentioned a couple times about the fact that the crony capitalist bankers created socialism as a false resistance, and how we need to take the best parts of the right and the left and construct a new political philosophy. I think we need to be eclectic. Two ideas that I think have merit. Well, one is that we need to have a limit on how much wealth that an individual, a corporation, any kind of entity can acquire, because obviously things have gone off the rails with Jeff Bezos earning $12 billion in one day. It's just unhealthy, and it's contrary to the common good.
Well, especially when these billionaires will use the money to influence the political system, either for their own benefit or because their heads are filled with all kinds of this idealistic liberal nonsense, like tends to be the case with Bill Gates.
Yeah, two other things. Although they took it too far, the Soviets, rather than what our consumerist nihilist culture does today, is we buy something new and after a short time throw it away. The Soviets, they didn't throw things away. They rebuilt them until they couldn't be rebuilt anymore. I think that would be very good. Cut down on pollution. And what was the third thing? The Muslims have one good idea: no lending of money for interest. I mean, can you imagine how much misery and suffering and war would be eliminated if we just cut out that one thing?
Pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
And the Muslims, it's a loan plus a fee. You borrow so much money, you pay it back, and then there's a flat fee. It's not compounding interest, which is the debt trap.
Did you know compound interest was known in the Roman Empire, and it was banned because it was considered too dishonest?
I'm not surprised at all. And again, the reason the Western Empire fell primarily was they were in so much debt, they were overextended militarily, and the empire fell. And I'm seeing a lot of the same signs here.
Yeah, well, that's all I have for you today. I'll call in tomorrow with the information about the Extendivite. I think you'll really enjoy it. But keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot here. Now, getting back to NBC, they've issued another correction. Now they're saying that Cohen was not wiretapped at all. It's looking like this was somebody's idea of fake news. Chuck Todd got taken in by it. It's caused a big stink. I'm looking at the quake map from down on the Big Island. And remember, I'm on a different island from where all this is taking place. I'm on Oahu. But it's amazing how extensive that quake field is. And I'm going to quake-proof the house. We remember how to do that from living in Southern California. But it looks like something major may happen there. They're not saying it's definitely going to happen, but something's going on. They've already had to close several roads because of large cracks opening up in them. The worst thing that could happen is if a big chunk of that shoreline were to just flop off into the ocean, because that would generate a major tsunami. So we'll keep an eye on it. Like I said, I'm probably going to. I've got a little homebrew seismograph. I'm going to plug that in and see if I can catch some of these quakes. Okay, there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here and share it with everybody you know. Use email or face-to-face conversations. Facebook and YouTube and Google, they're totally useless now for people who want to know the truth about what's going on in this country. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus?